This week, we've seen aquatic armies, time tanks, and omega oppositions. Let's dive right into what's on the pull list. Kicking things off, we're going to start with Alien vs. Captain America number 4, written by Frank Thierry with artwork by Stefano Raphael. Cap and crew are kind of preparing to take on Hydra's queen alien, if you will, and put an end to the xenomorph's reign of terror. However, there's a little bit of a difference between what the queen alien is that we know about and what he is facing off with this time around. This continued to be a good issue after good issue of this series, and it was a really awesome end cap to this crossover that I never really would have anticipated working. These 20th Century Fox crossovers, like, they kind of seem to be the place where Marvel is able to take real stakes and kind of like real consequences and really play with them in fun and exciting ways that we just, quite frankly, don't get from the regular continuity. And even more so, they're building on their own continuity now as we see kind of glimpses to this larger world and this larger level of interconnectivity between this property and even the Alien versus Avengers property that we saw from Jonathan Hickman previously as well. Really great stuff. It's so fun seeing Captain America take on these aliens here, and the Red Skull version of the Alien Queen 2 was way more epic than it ever should have been. Alien versus Captain America, the whole series in this issue totally surprised me. All right, let's talk Aquaman number 14, written by Jeremy Adams with artwork by Daniel Bayliss. So, Mara's mother is acting as her daughter and trying to kill her father, who's really her son in law. And yeah, I'm confused, like as confused as I could possibly be. I really dug the earlier issues of this series. They felt adventurous and they felt fun and they felt light. And this is kind of like none of that. It's so convoluted that it has completely lost me. And on top of that, they're not even really toying with the character of Arthur, right? Aquaman, the nameship character of this title, as much as it needs to be. I don't think that the twist is unearned that we get, but it does feel like it's a bit rushed. I think this needed time to marinate, and if it was going to have the level of resonance that I think it really needed to make me care about the events that are going on, if this series is going to be something that remains on my pull list, they got to get back to Arthur just hanging out in the ocean with his ocean friends and just doing fun things, because that's where I was having my highest level of enjoyment with Aquaman. Next up, we have Cyclops number 1, written by Alex Packnadel with artwork by Roger Antonio. So Scott Summers is pulled back into the depths of his past while this technological menace lurks in the shadows, and one that is very familiar with X-Men fans of the past as well. This was pretty good. I have to say that. It works for me, but I feel like it mostly works for me because I have a background with old Scotty's upbringing here, as he was, brought up in the orphanage, and we know that his plane crashed and him and his brother had to parachute out as his parents seemingly passed away. We know the real reason for that, though. But the bigger thing is that, like, some of my earliest memories of X-Men comics involved Donald Pierce and the Reavers. So seeing them and their inclusion in this totally worked for me, but without that background, I don't know if this would have resonated as much with me as it did. The art was very stylistically in tune with X-Men proper. It kind of had that Stegman flair to it, at least the ones that I've read, because I haven't been on that series for a long period of time at this point. But I have to say, this felt a little bit color by numbers, and I know the prowess that Alex Packnadel has, particularly when he's talking about big science-y ideas, right? Whether it's like science fiction or if it's, something that is a little bit more realistic. Him working on the Reavers gives me hope that this is going to be kind of like built out into something bigger. But for right now, this was just a very solid introduction. All right, let's talk DCKO number 4, written by Scott Snyder with artwork by Javier Fernandez. So this is what we've been waiting for, right? The Trinity, the Holy Trinity of DC versus the Absolutes, all for the ultimate cache of Omega energy. And I have to say that this was awesome. I can't believe how cool this was. I mean, let's get this right out of the way. It was very silly, right? And very obvious. But I'll be damned if I didn't have a great time with this issue. The way we come to understand how each one of these heroes views the world and the means to win was like a really satisfying way of tapping into what has made this series work, right? The viewpoints of Bruce and the viewpoints of Clark and Diana, and how they all are trying to vie for this energy to inherently save the world. The only clunky thing about this is that I feel like the narration is all from this omniscient narrator perspective, and sometimes it works, but like the entirety of this issue was in that vein, and it's really kind of what held it back from being something even more incredible than it was. So, was it earth shattering? No, but was it the most fun issue that I read this week? Without a shadow of a doubt. Okay, next up we have Die Loaded number 4, written by Kieran Gillen with artwork by Stephanie Hans. The die party is growing here as Chuck kind of lives on. I mean, no, not really, but through his children who have remarkably similar character traits to him, yeah, in that way he does kind of live on. And that doesn't bode well for anyone getting home quickly either. I'm still kind of trying to find where I land with this new group. I definitely enjoy the tonal shift of this issue as it was much lighter, considering the issue's focal point being on Chuck's son, who, again, is remarkably like him. But at the same time, one of the strengths of the prior volume was the unknown of everything. We had to learn this world and the inner workings of everything and the pasts of each one of these characters and their interactions. And I feel like sometimes some of the characters and some of the narration is leaning on what has happened with these other people as opposed to what's supposed to be happening with our current group. I'm ready for the narrator or the narration to kind of kick off into the adventurous tone that we need for the characters that are in the game right now. We got glimpses of that with Soul's mother, but now I want them to kick it into high gear. We're going to see what these next issues bring along the way. All right, let's talk Geiger number 21, written by Jeff Johns with artwork by Gary Frank. The Northerner and Tariq kind of enter this tank that mysteriously dropped from the sky, and we see that there's already established plans for these characters. And not just those characters, but maybe a couple more coming down the pipeline. This was a really explainy issue. This was the exposition fairy kind of issue that we get, right? We get more on the Northerner's mission and his motives, but in that same way, we also get to see how those motives may be in direct opposition to the one thing that Geiger may want more than anything. Gary Frank always delivers when it comes to the artwork duties on this book as well, and this is no different. It's light on action, but there's so many little fine details to look for that it's almost like a highlights book, right? Spot the differences or something like that. You got to keep your eyes peeled because there's so many cool things that you're seeing in here. Some of them they make, notice of right away, like the name tags on the back of these chairs within the tank. But there's other finer details that may come up as spoilers or like little hints for future issues as well. So that's the kind of thing that Gary Frank is able to bring to the story here. So Geiger, while it wasn't the most action-packed issue, I think that this is the thing that's pushing the narration forward. All right, we have somewhat of a finale, so let's go ahead and talk Godzilla Escape the Deadzone number 6, written by Ethan Parker and Griffin Sheridan, with artwork by Pablo Tunica. So everything kind of converges as the military enter the dead zone looking to recapture the kids who have been able to hijack these kaiju creatures. And the namesake character is here to mess with everyone's plans. I'm really glad I decided to catch up on this first and foremost, right? So I had read all of the previous issues in, preparation to get to this one to be able to review it. And I have to say, I feel like I had a much more fulfilling experience with how I actually enjoyed it. I feel like this is something that is just like so snappy that it demands your attention. Everything is just like full speed nonstop. Technically, even up to the last page of this series. The look of this book is also so vibrant and loose, and it works really well. It's stylistically on brand, but also really distinct and really unique for the look of all these other like Godzilla books that we have out there right now. Kind of like DWJ vibes for everything that's going on here. But I love that we get a couple mysteries here. We got our main character, the mutated person, seemingly passing away after getting stepped on by Godzilla, but maybe there's more to the story there. It seems to be that way. If they bring this back, which it seems like they're going to with a new series here, I gotta say, I'm jumping on from the jump and making sure that I review every issue. All right, let's talk the Rocketfellers number 12, written by Peter Tomasi with artwork by Francis Manipul. With Roland gone and the family, including old Auntie Raina, they sit down and they have a good old fashioned family dinner. Yeah, that's what this issue's about. After Reina's pursuit, this was a much slower, much calmer issue, which allows the team to reestablish where they all are, where they stand, and what it means to have lost a family member and also gained a family member. With that being said, what I don't know, I'm still struggling with this a little bit. We're kind of back to the thing that initially made me drop the book, which is a snail's pace of a narrative. A big zinger or a big hook at the end maybe would have allowed this to hit harder. Time will tell on that one, but now that Roland is gone, which was our father figure, our main character, if you will, and we know that our main villain is now part of the family, although struggling with the mentalities that are kind of like burdening her from being a family member and also being the person who's trying to go after her family. I don't know. We don't know what the stakes are anymore. We don't know what is driving the story forward or driving the family to pursue whatever it is they're going to pursue now. So maybe this is a good jumping on point for new readers on this one. Time will tell on that one. Rockefeller still kind of has me feeling a little bit topsy turvy, though. All right, let's talk Space Ghost number 8, written by David Papose with artwork by Jonathan Lau. This was kind of a heartbreaker of an issue, guys. Jan and Jace, they have to face down their grandfather who has been overtaken by this antimatter, and they're kind of forced to encounter the possibility of losing their family yet again. The thing I love about this is that there is no panel that is ever wasted in any issue of Space Ghost, and this is very much the same. But what ends up happening, and with the reason I love that so much, is that I feel like it elevates every piece of the experience with this book, right? The action and the emotion and everything behind that just becomes an elevated version of what it is because you're forced to like just kind of have that whip snap pace and move on from every little thing that's like everything becomes a big shock of the moment. The character arcs and the growth we've seen from everyone throughout these two volumes of Space Ghost 2 have just been such a great, worthwhile journey as well. And this issue seems like it's going to be the next big jump of this found family and what they're going through, and maybe kind of like the next evolution of what they're going to be moving forward. And that's a really exciting thing because I feel like David Papose is really crafting these characters into being great, nuanced versions of the cartoon characters that they were previously. So, Space Ghost is still doing it the absolute best in this licensed property landscape. Next up, we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 15, written by Gene Luen Yang with artwork by Freddie Williams. The brothers have a sneaking suspicion regarding the identity of the Ujigami, and we learn kind of what drove Splinter back into the world of the living. The issue really brought the emotional weight that I honestly wasn't expecting, at least right now. We've seen emotional resonance throughout the series here, but I just wasn't expecting it right here in the moment. And it's great to see such a deep connection with the turtles, even when it leads to them bickering and fighting and having disagreements. This book has retained that great energetic look that had like the Juan Ferreira time on this, like what made that shine so much. I really enjoy what Freddie Williams is bringing to this book, and I feel like again, just like Juan Ferreira, like he's already establishing like if he can stay on this book for a long period of time, that he might be a I don't know, a name to remember in the lineage of artists that took over for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now, I'm curious to see what they're going to do here because it's very much out on Front Street now that Splinter is the Ujigami. We know his motivations and why he's doing the things that he's doing, but I just don't know if the brothers are going to be able to jive with his outlook on why he's doing the things that he's doing. So time will tell on that one. But Team NT continues to be exciting. I'm still glad that it's kind of kept that energetic feel and emotions as the series has gone on. I'm definitely sticking along for the ride. And with my runner up book of the week, let's talk Bleeding Hearts number 1, written by Dennis Camp with artwork by Stephen Morian. So, zombies have overtaken the world and they're the majority, right? But a zombie named Poke feels the oddest sensation in his chest, and it's his heart beating. I wasn't sure what to expect from this book, but if it was the team behind 20th Century Men, so I was kind of like a predetermined thing that it was going to be an add to my pull list. but I definitely wasn't expecting something as light and fun as what we got. Poke and his friend are just kind of like hanging out. They're getting a bite to eat. That happens to be human flesh. They're talking about their quote unquote life, and it's all just charming in this really weird way. Stipian also has one of the most unique looks in comic books, and it just works really, really well. I love the dynamic that Dennis and Stippen have with anything that they work on, but particularly right here, I feel like his artistic approach really works with the lighthearted nature of the narrative. And when it needs to be gross, it can still really easily get to the gross part from a medical standpoint. That it is. There's a lot of hearts and flesh in this book, as to be expected with zombies. But I gotta say, for the kickoff of Vertigo proper with a new number one, Bleeding Hearts, I feel like really is setting the tone that gets me excited that they're back and that Vertigo is back in our lives again. And with my top comic of the week, let's talk Absolute Wonder Woman Annual number one, written by Kelly Thompson with artwork by Madia De Luis. Diana is reeling from her short time in which she took on the form of the Medusa when she had fought the Tetracide, and she was looking for some kind of way to best that beast, right? But she has to call upon the help of Athena to kind of set right the injustice that was eons in the making. All right, DC, you've made annuals this thing, right? This thing that is incredibly special and unique and like really bold. This issue was excellent. I don't think I'll ever tire of Diana's unending conviction for compassion, right? That's the driving motivation for this character. The way she's able to recontextualize how Medusa must feel, being that she can never share a moment looking eye to eye with another being, is something I've never even considered, like not just from the realm of Wonder Woman, but from Greek mythology, from learning all that stuff when I was a child back in elementary school. I never even thought of something like that. It's so hard to fathom, but in this book, it makes it so easy to see how, I don't know, there's something like that. It's just a misunderstanding, right? And it's a misunderstanding that can turn into a monstrosity so quickly without having that level of understanding that Diana is conveying right here. It's also cool seeing how fallible the gods can be and how, when proven wrong through understanding and empathy, we can see some rights being made here and some mistakes being corrected much, much later on here. So, Absolute Wonder Woman, the annual, is definitely not a book you can skip. This is following along with the same line of like Absolute Batman's annual being just like this top tier comic. This is no different, and it's absolutely worthy of top comic of the week. So that's what I've got for you this week, but I'm more curious. What did you read, and what were your thoughts? Do me a favor, like, share, subscribe, consider memberships, and be part of the panel. Leave a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you next week.